So an analemma, in astronomy, an analemma is a diagram showing the position of the sun in the sky as seen from a fixed location on Earth at the same mean solar time, as that position varies over the course of the year. That might sound like a lot. You might have just said, Z, what the fuck did you just say? Well, it's not that complicated. Once I show you an image, you'll say, oh, that's what that means. You can often find these analemma like on the side of a globe. I remember being a kid, it looks like a ribbon, and I would see these things on globes. And I would say, oh, okay, I know that. I've seen that before. What is that ribbon like image on the side of every globe? Now I know what it is. It's called an analemma. Let me pull it up for you guys. Do you see the pattern it's making? When I say it makes a ribbon pattern, so all this is, ladies and gentlemen, is you go outside, you set up a camera, stationary. And at the same time, every day, you snap a picture. All right? You see what it's doing? Over the course of a year, it'll create a very particular pattern in the image. It happens all the time, always. It creates this ribbon-like structure. See it? I'll stop it when it gets to the end. Oops, let me bring it here. Interesting. So what you're seeing is how the sun changes position in the sky relative to time. Notice how one side of the image is skinnier and shorter than the other. They're not symmetrical. I also want to point out another thing that I'll bring up later. Notice how they differ in the southern hemisphere as compared to the northern hemisphere. Why are they different? As this image is showing, if you look at an image from Chile, which is 45 degrees south latitude, you find that during the summertime, the analemma is showing the longer, wider presentation. Juxtapose that to the image from Montreal, Canada, which is 45 degrees north latitude. You see the same image, but it appears to be flipped over, inverted. Why would it do that? Why would it do that? Well, we'll get into that a little bit more later, because I don't know. They tell me that I'm on a globe. They tell me that the seasons are accounted for by the tilt, the axial tilt of this globe as it revolves around the sun, moving at 66,000 miles an hour through the infinite vacuum of space. But which is weird, because under that model, it kind of seems to me that you would see a symmetrical presentation of the sun in the sky, its declination, its angle in relation to time. But we don't see that here. It's asymmetrical in its presentation. Now, we see a pattern, it's cyclical, but asymmetrical nonetheless. I don't know. Does that raise any red flags with any of you guys? Why didn't they teach me about this at school? Why did I always see an analemma on the side of a globe, but no one ever told me about it? I don't know. It's weird. In astronomy, an analemma is a diagram showing the position of the sun in the sky as seen from a fixed location on Earth at the same mean solar time as the position varies over the course of a year, much like we see here in front of us. The diagram will resemble a figure 8. Globes of Earth often display an analemma as a two-dimensional figure of equation of time versus declination of the sun. Declination just means the angle, the vertical angle. The north-south component of the analemma results from changes in the sun's declination due to the tilt of the Earth's axis of rotation. And this is where Z reminds you of why I'm presenting this to you. Because you'll see very rapidly, very cunningly, they went from telling us about what is observable, what is measurable, what is repeatable. They went from telling us about the phenomena to the theory. Oh, Z, what do you know? How do you know it's a theory? Because it's obviously a theory. Because if I can't prove it and you can't prove it, it's a theory. Because if it was a law, if it was de facto reality, we would be able to prove it. So I asked the question, when you're telling me what an analemma is, when you're telling me that the sun shows a very particular pattern throughout the year in relation to its declination angle and time, I can prove that. I can get a camera, to put it in my backyard, and each day I could take a snapshot of the sun at the same time. And indeed, I will show this analemma. I can prove it to myself. But then when you tell me that the north-south component of the analemma results from the change in the sun's declination due to the tilt of the Earth's axis of rotation, well, I start to say to myself, that's an interesting theory, but where's your proof? Because you just keep telling it to me over and over and over again. You're presenting it as fact. It's a fact that the analemma exists. It's a fact that the sun's position changes over time throughout the year. But, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is no fact that it's due to the tilt of the Earth's axis of rotation. That is not a fact. That's a theory. But why are you presenting your theory as fact to me in every single article that I search regarding this analemma? Part of me just wants to give you the benefit of the doubt. Just think, that you're just kind of maybe mistaken. That you're a little too zealous about your theory. But the larger part of me just kind of realizes that you're just lying to me. You're deceiving me. I don't know. Let me continue. The east-west component results from the non-uniform rate of change of the sun's right ascension, governed by the combined effects of the Earth's axial tilt and its orbital eccentricity. Oh, got it. So when Z is trying to point out to you what we see on the screen, that although if you're telling me the seasons are due to Earth's tilt, changes in the sky, the sun's angles due to Earth tilt, why is it different in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere? Why is it inverted? You need to give me your theory, and then you tell me that, well, it's governed by the combined effects of not only the tilt, but the orbital eccentricity of our globe around the sun. Wow. So you're telling me it's an eccentric orbit, which means it's non-linear. Well, let me think about that. So you're telling me we're moving and we're orbiting in a non-linear fashion, in an eccentric fashion. Well, that's interesting to me because I know a little bit about science. I know a little bit about physics. And I know that when something's moving in a non-linear pattern, that necessarily implies acceleration and deceleration. Well, I thought you told me everything's relative, Mr. Einstein, and we don't feel our movement because it's relative. And all these people that give me the examples. Well, the reason you don't feel like you're moving, Z, is because it's like when you're in a car. You don't feel like you're moving when you're in a car, right? Well, no, not when I'm going at a uniform speed. Not when I'm going 60 miles an hour down the highway straight. But what happens if I turn? What happens if I slow down or speed up? What happens then? Yeah, I feel that. Well, you're telling me that this analemma and the asymmetrical pattern noted different places and different regions on this earth, you're telling me it's because of orbital eccentricity. So you're telling me that there's a change in the rate of speed that we're moving in the solar system, which I know by all laws of physics and all demonstrable applied physical science, that when there's a change in the rate of speed, that is necessarily an acceleration or a deceleration. And I know that when something accelerates or decelerates, you would feel it. But why don't I feel anything? It's almost like you're presenting a theory that goes against physics. It's almost like you're presenting an impossible theory as fact. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the crazy one because I'm the idiot who comes on here every morning and tries to explain this thing to people as I get laughed at. I don't know. Let me continue. One can photograph an analemma by keeping a camera at a fixed location and orientation, taking multiple exposures throughout a year, always at the same time of day, disregarding daylight savings time. Like I said, what you see on screen, you can do it yourself. Z's not making it up. The person who made this video is not making it up. You can do it yourself. Will you? Do you care enough? Analemmas in the modern sense of the term have been used in conjunction with sundials since the 18th century to convert between apparent and mean solar time. Before this, the term had a more generic meaning that referred to the graphical procedure of representing three-dimensional objects in two dimensions, now known as orthographic projection. Again, everybody, just want to ask the question, why when I go to search about observable phenomena in nature am I presented with theory? Is that science? Is that even moral and ethical? When did science become institutionalized, personified? When was academia co-opted exactly? The truth is that really doesn't matter when or how. What matters is understanding that it's been taken over for very likely as long as you or anybody you ever have known has lived. Whether it's been 500 years, whether it's been thousands of years, whether it's been since the beginning of recorded history, for whatever reason, the knowledge of this realm that is known to certain powerful people has been hidden from you, occulted. Very likely it's been carried down through their mystery schools, their secret societies, and otherwise. For whatever reason, there's information and knowledge that exists in this world that is being kept from you. What is being presented to you as science is none other than indoctrination and propaganda. That's why I call it hashtag science. It's science in name only. Science is nothing other than a method of discovery. It's certain principles that men and women have discovered and given to us. Principles that give us a method to form some degree of objective reality in this realm. Science is a method to get beyond your emotions, to get beyond your feelings, to get beyond your subjective solipsistic experience and move to some form of shared understanding of this reality. Science is not an institution. A scientist is not a person. It's not a degree. Science isn't something you achieve. It's something you do. You want to ask me who's a scientist? You're a scientist if you practice science. You don't need a white coat. You don't need a diploma from MIT. You just need some wonder. You need the desire to understand this world objectively. That's all you need to be a scientist. Don't let anybody tell you different. So when guys like Z come on and they say, why is the analemma non-symmetrical and why is it inverted in the northern and southern hemisphere? And guys like Z try to show you the blatant lie that's been presented to you, evidenced by objective, observable reality. Maybe you won't just make fun of me. Maybe you won't dismiss me because you want to hold on to your pre-indoctrinated paradigm because you're scared. Maybe you'll try to move beyond your cognitive dissonance and your confirmation bias and get to some point of truth. And maybe you'll wake up and you'll stop being controlled by a bunch of despotic, elite bloodline lunatics. I don't know, just maybe.